Man of Medan is the first chapter in the Dark Pictures anthology, a series brought to us by Supermassive Games, the developer of cult classic Until Dawn, and it's trying something quite ambitious and a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm Tamoor.
I'm Adam.
And we have played the game, and we're going to tell you a little bit of what we thought. Important to say, this is a preview version of the game that we're basing our impressions on, so things could change. But it was a pretty good indication of what the game is going to be. We played about an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, it was about maybe a third of the game, I'd say. But the big surprise, so everyone's thinking this is kind of like a single-player, narrative-driven horror game, but the twist is, you can play it in multiplayer.
Co-op.
Co-op. Well, there was a variety of different modes. So obviously you can play the whole thing, single player, solo only.
And that, we asked them and they said it will be between about 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
It will take us to complete it.
Then the main mode, and this is what me and Sam got to play, is a sort of co-op narrative where where you're both playing in the same story. We'll go into a little bit more detail on that in a second. And then the final mode that we saw was called Movie Night Mode, which I think is based on a lot of people's experiences of Until Dawn, where they would watch or play that as a group.
Yeah, so the developers said that that was directly the kind of impetus behind creating this mode, that people used to gather around a screen and play Until Dawn together, so they thought, why not just build that into the game, and so you get this Movie Night Mode.
And that was, I believe, 2 to 5 players. And I think the way that worked was that you all, at the beginning of the game, would select
a character.
Yeah, one of the 5 characters. If you didn't have 5 players, you could double up on the characters.
Yeah.
And then when that character came to be, as the player,
you'd pass it off.
Hand the controller around.
So it's one controller with multiple characters, which creates its own interesting both plus points and downsides, but we'll get into that later. So to lay the groundwork a bit, the main inspiration for this story in terms of themes and atmosphere is 2 kind of classic genres, which is home invasion and also classic ghost ship stories. Yeah,
it's kind of a weird sort of merger of the 2 subgenres, and for me, it didn't always work. Like those 2 don't sort of naturally fit together in my head. Maybe that's just me, but so we got a sort of taste of both, but not like the full extent, I would say, of the ghost ship horror, which looks like it's going to be maybe the latter half of the game, and I reckon they'll probably go all in on that.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of we got a lot of setup. We got a lot of build up where so you sort of see the sort of central ghost ship, or the origins, I guess, of that ghost ship, and then we're with our sort of 5 main playable characters on aboard sort of a smaller boat. They're just off in search of
so they're going for diving missions. So you get a bunch of characters which are kind of archetypal and kind of like for that genre, and the interactions between them are what the majority of what we played, right? Because Fliss doesn't want to do the thing. Conrad's kind of like, I've got all the money, you can do what we want, but he's also kind of got the hots for Fliss. Alex and Julia are a couple, but they've got a little bit of tension.
There's like sort of their relationship sort of tearing apart at the seams, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the younger brother is kind of like, he's there for the ride and he's trying to fit in and have a good time and trying to play it cool so he doesn't show up his older brother at the same time. So like you're trying to, the interactions are in that kind of like context. Yeah,
it's sort of sowing the seeds for like what you're probably going to see with these relationships sort of expanding across the narrative. And like crucially, there were a lot of moments in the section that we played where it would say relationship status updated, or which
trait updated,
or traits updated as well, like where your decisions, your choices sort of affect how your relationships sort of evolve and grow with the other characters. And I guess that's where we're going to start to see which characters sort of live or die in the second half of the game.
We can't just blindly attack them. We need a plan that can take them all out at once.
We need to get free. First things first.
So how that all kind of connects to the central multiplayer conceit is we were playing online. We weren't actually like far apart. We were in the same area-ish, but we were connected via an online connection, an internet connection. And what would happen is like I would say something in a conversation, and you would be in that same setting. You were in the room or on the boat nearby me. The actual boat is quite small, which makes sense because you don't want a massive area. So there were situations where we would be part of the same conversation, conversating with each other, or I would be having a conversation and you would be doing something else in the same area.
It felt like quite similar to last year's A Way Out in that regard. So like where you have these environments where you're both free to kind of explore and talk to people and, you know, just kind of progress your little narrative going on.
So the good part that I found was it's one of the few times where I actually felt like I was having a conversation with another person who's playing. So when I was talking to your character, it felt like we were having a bit of a conversation. You had enough agency to say something that I wouldn't expect, and then I would have to try and react to that and define how our relationship is, or define who my character is.
Yeah, and I'd say from like a mechanical point of view, like that sort of gameplay, sort of moment-to-moment stuff, it all felt really quite smooth.
Good,
it didn't like feel like you were waiting too long on the other player. Or, you know, it didn't feel like the story wasn't progressing because someone was doing one thing while the other person was doing another.
I think the only moment where it felt a bit like it hit a snag when there was an action involved at the same time. So if it's like reach out to help this person and then someone else is on the other side, I wasn't privy to what was happening on the other side, but there was one point where it was like try and save someone, and I couldn't tell whether on the other, and it was taking quite a long time, so I had like my hand out into this like dark corner. On the other side, I think you were making a decision, or the character was making a decision on whether to take my hand or do something else. So it was like a just long enough of a pause to be like,
oh, there's something off here.
Something off here. But in the actual conversating, it felt quite natural, just because it kind of, the immersion is there and it kind of pulls you in and you start to get into the flow of the conversation, which felt good.
Definitely. I'd say where it doesn't feel as smooth is more the storytelling side of things, which you would kind of assume is where supermassive games, after their success with Until Dawn, would be really comfortable with. But we found the pacing of the story and some of the dialogue to be maybe a little lacking.
Come here, you vixen.
The writing of the dialogue feels quite awkward, and then some of the delivery of it feels quite awkward as well.
Stilted, isn't it?
And then that kind of permeates almost every interaction that I had personally. There was at least one or two lines that felt like clangers.
Yeah, they would just come out of nowhere and it'd just be like, that's not something that real humans would say. Like, I suppose it kind of plays into what that sort of, when you had Until Dawn, where it was sort of quite sort of schlocky, it's so bad, it's good sort of vibe, you know, like it's fun.
And that kind of like, there are also like moments, there's some good writing there as well. Like I felt Fliss was quite strongly characterized, and her dialogue options kind of fit into what she was going with. She never felt like tonally all over the place.
No.
But like the thing that kind of stuck out to me was it felt like those characters could have been in Until Dawn. And to me, that was kind of like a bit of a whiplash in terms of tone. Like I kept thinking, at any point, this could go from, like, depending on my dialogue choice, it could feel like a horror, thriller type thing, or it can feel like this is about to become American Pie or something like that.
Definitely, yeah.
And I was like, I don't think that's what they're going for.
I think crucially, like, despite our, short givings with some of the plot elements and the dialogue, I do want to see where the story goes. Like, I do want to know. I am invested in it now, so I do want to, see what happens. Like, so our demo ended at what felt like, the start of the story. Yeah.
And that's where you find the Medan. Like there's obviously the thing that happens is the main kind of like inciting incident is a bunch of pirates show up and take over the ship. And it's a proper like, look at me, I'm the captain now moment. But in that scenario, it was like weird stuff was happening, and weird not like because of spooky stuff, but it was like, in terms of the scenario was weird, where you'd all get tied up and then the pirates would do things like just come and take you and be like, you come with me, and you're like, oh, it's about to kick off, and they take you out and just like walk around for a bit and then bring you back.
Because you got taken out, didn't you? And I stayed in the room where everyone's gagged and you went out, and so I was just ungagging anyone else that I could ungag.
So you were in the room ungagging everyone, which means like, which was weird because like you're wasting a lot of time there, and the kind of like pirates don't respond to the fact that every time
everyone's
they walk
ungagged.
back, everyone's ungagged. I was outside as Fliss, and the pirate captain who's got a weird gammy eye and he looks like a pirate captain. He's like, call for a weather report because there's like a storm coming. So like I picked up the phone and I called, and my choices were to like just ask for the weather or be like, we've been kidnapped. And I went with, we've been kidnapped. And then he like pushed me down and I was like, please, I'm sorry.
I didn't see any of this.
So this is the interesting thing. Like there's scenarios that, because it's multiplayer co-op, there's that moment like where you have a discussion because like you did a diving section.
I did a whole different section. And like even with other people that we spoke to about who played the game, we were sort of having completely different outcomes to the end of our demo. So for instance, in our demo, you managed to escape as Conrad onto the pirate's boat and then get away.
And you can choose not to do that, but I did it because you told me to.
Yeah,
so
and then,
as the character, as Alex, you were like, go for the boat and get someone.
Yeah.
So I would have, my innate thing would have been like, as me, you know, my moral would be try and stop and stay there and try and fight it.
Yeah.
But because you said it, I was off. I was like, all right, I'm going to do what.
And then back on the boat with my character, I had to stop the pirates from shooting you.
Yeah.
So
see,
like
I didn't see that. It just told me press triangle to dodge button. I didn't realize that I was dodging it.
Yeah.
And it went far off because you had done something about that.
Yeah.
So that's really, really interesting.
It is,
and it's exciting. And like that's the part of it. Like conceptually on a mechanical and design level, I think it's a really, really interesting, fascinating game.
I think as well, like. In the slither that we saw, like it was interesting, but sort of extrapolate that into the second half of the game where it's probably going to get much more life or death.
Yeah.
I think those decisions that real humans make will be the deciding factors between who lives and dies, and I think that would be both fun and frustrating for whoever's on the receiving end.
And like we should say, like I'm interested in seeing how the pacing works out because we played like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it had very little spooky stuff.
Yeah, it was more thriller than horror, I would say.
And like the game as a total, let's say it's 5 hours. When we get to the ship, it's going to have to pop off straight away.
Yeah.
Like immediately, and it's going to have to maintain that for 3 or 4 hours.
Definitely.
I think we're in agreement where like the actual idea of it and how it played and kind of the gameplay opportunities looks like it's setting up are really, really interesting and appealing. The kind of the writing and perhaps the acting of it is not as good.
Iffy.
Yeah. The movie night aspect of it.
Yeah.
We played a bit of that and we watched a lot of people play it as well, just to see how it would like unfold on a normal scenario. And it looks like it does the trick. Like you play for a bit. My only concern was there are extended segments where one character is just playing on his own.
Yeah.
Like we had a group of 4 people or 5 people sitting around a TV and someone playing as Alex was going for like 15 minutes. Which is a lot of time, but I guess the natural like counterpoint to that is like it's also a viewing experience for everyone else who's watching. And they can still chime up and be like, no, don't do that.
And I think what you were saying about certain choices and betrayals is probably going to be sort of amplified in that mode because say if one person is playing one character, what happens if that character gets like left behind? They're then like they're not active anymore. They're just a viewer.
Yeah, and they'll definitely be angry and salty about
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Captain says shut your mouth. You shut your mouth.
So like the idea that it's just an anthology series like Black Mirror or The Twilight Zone, but for video games, is I think a really interesting one. And I think each of the games that they're going to do, and they say they're going to do about 2 every 12 months, year.
I think 2 per year. Yeah,
2
that's
per
what
year.
they're saying.
I think like the idea that each is going to be a different slice of horror. So like how we've now got Home Invasion meets Ghost Story, Ghost Ship Story.
Be different.
Yeah, the next one could be like a teen slasher like we had with Until Dawn.
And they're not linked other than the one curator character. The curator is something that we haven't mentioned but like he's basically he's the Peter Stormare character from Until Dawn.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt, where he's somehow able to see your decisions and is like commenting and also like recapping things, and the writing on him was good. I think that he's probably the strongest written character because he's doing things like nudging you and being like, should you do this or should you do that?
So like he knows, he's apparently been sort of writing or collecting stories for thousands of years and he says he can't even remember when he started, and like he is sort of observing you and commenting on you and saying, you made that decision, did you? What about maybe this? And like, so I don't know how that will affect gameplay or your decisions or your choices. Obviously he can maybe sort of suggest to you what you should be doing, but I think you're right. He was well written and well acted.
And he's the link between all the stories.
It
doesn't seem like, the way they talked about it was like, he's not going to tie these all together in a way that you go, oh, that's what this episode meant in this one.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of like the link between all of them. He's going to be the avenue which you explore all these stories.
Yeah.
So he's the anchor for the Dark Pictures anthology.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'm excited to see more.
Yeah,
I think,
too.
And we've got more about the game on GameSpot.com, where I've got a few interviews with the developers, which you can read about and get insight into how they make the game, and also kind of their vision for the next few episodes in the series. But yeah, let us know what you're thinking about Man of Medan and whether you're excited for it, what kind of way you want to play it now that you know that it's co-op, single player, and movie night mode.
All the modes.
You can do that in the comments, or you can find us on Twitter. I'm at Tamoor H.
I'm at Adam Rees-Mace.
And we'll see you next time.